Hook. Brainstorming is all about thinking ideas that no person has thought before. You would think that a process dedicated to free thinking shouldn't have rules, but brainstorming definitely has rules. Stay with us to learn the rules and why we must follow them.
Of course, brainstorming can be an important part of the creative process. To be creative, we want new original ideas. That is what brainstorming is all about. Isn't it? The creative process is more than just imagining new crazy ideas though, but we will leave that for future videos. Today we are contemplating brainstorming and brainstorming rules. We are Wild Art Fly Free and we are all about creativity. And, also, for us creativity is the path from chaos to perfection, where perfection is temporary, fragile, impossible, and prone to explode. But this video is only about the first part. That is, the path from chaos to perfection. So, to be creative, we need to start our journey in chaos. Brainstorming is one way that we can invite chaos into the creative process.
Today we are contemplating brainstorming and brainstorming rules. We are Wild Art Fly Free and we are all about creativity. For us, creativity is the path from chaos to perfection, where perfection is temporary, fragile, impossible, and prone to explode. But this video is only about the first part, that is, the path from chaos to perfection. So, to be creative, we need to start our journey in chaos. Brainstorming is one way we can invite chaos into the creative process.
So, hello and welcome. We are Wild Art Fly Free and we are all about creativity. This is our project where we are building a fantasy world out of stories. So okay. Building a fantasy world is a seriously big job. And, because we always start in chaos, we are never sure where we are going, and we definitely don't know how we might get there. But, that is the point, isn't it? We are dedicated to finding a place that no mind has ever been before, so if we have no idea how to get there, then at least we know that we are going in the right direction. So then. That's our plan. We fill our world with chaos and then we use the chaos as the building blocks for our world. At the same time, we are learning about making YouTube videos and even how to build a YouTube community. Okay, well, thank you for your interest, and if you think you might enjoy building stories into a fantasy world, please feel free to contribute.
So, the reason that we are intent on being creative is because we're building an entire world out of stories. Of course, our world is traditionally built from rock and water and biology bits, isn't it? But doesn't each of those bits have its own story. Of course, a world is traditionally built from rock, water, and biology bits, isn't it? But doesn't each of those bits have its own story? Anyway, our world has rocks and water too, but we won't mention them until they become important to one of our stories. That makes sense, right? And now we want to think about one of our characters from our world. We want someone whose story will be affected by today's topic, brainstorming.
The first goblin that we focus on will be the one with bluish skin and some greenish features such as ears and eyelids and eyebrows. Miss Blue has a patch of dark hair that sprouts from the top of her head. Her clothes aren't really very inspired, are they? What sort of outfit might suit her better? Should she carry a distinctive item or a weapon? How about a piece of characteristic jewelry?
This young female goblin is named Fukok. She is a bubbling teapot. Fukok has moments of brilliance and a short attention span, but she is the most likable of our goblins.
Okay. That's a little of the Cork's story. We will get back to her in a bit. Right now we want to think more about today's topic. Brainstorming. So, we know that brainstorming is all about freeing up our minds so that we can conjure up wild and crazy ideas. Then, isn't it counterintuitive that brainstorming should have rules? Rules are about limiting, aren't they? Well, yes. But we have an analogy, or a cute little story, to explain ourselves. For us, the creative process is playing, not work. So, to be creative, we need a safe place to play. Like a playground for grown-ups. Well, playgrounds have rules and borders, don't they? To ensure that our ideas remain safe and especially our egos, we have rules. And now, our first rule of brainstorming and today's key topic is the idea that during brainstorming, we do not criticize. Okay. That makes sense, I'm sure. Our brainstorming playground must be a safe place for little baby ideas to be born into. We can focus on the idea of not criticizing for this video. That the beasing session should be a safe place for grown-ups to think like children.
From what we know about Fukok so far, we see that she is clever and witty. But we do know that Fukok is also supportive and loyal to her group. So, maybe she would be the person who would work to keep a brainstorming session on track. Fukok is not the type of person who would push rules at people, but she is the type of person that might suggest some. Fukok's fiery friend, Outlug, would be more likely to push rules. But, what if it is Outlug that Fukok would want to keep in line? Well, would Outlug be the type of person to accept the rules just to control and point them at the boys? That might be fun?
Do not criticize. Well, so we feel safe to suggest any old crazy idea that pops into our heads. But, how will that be of any use? When our world gets serious, and we do expect our world to get serious, what is the point of wild and crazy ideas, anyway? Okay. That is a very good question. And, well, for us at Wild Art Fly Free, the answer comes after. We brainstorm for a while, just to play around with ideas. Then later, we get serious about choosing a way forward. That would be our path out of the chaos and toward the perfection. In fact, we say from the start of the brainstorming that we probably won't choose any of these ideas, anyway. So, wild and crazy certainly isn't going to hurt. Think of the brainstorming as an exercise to practice thinking new thoughts. It is not likely to be the time for any eureka moment. So, enjoy the process. Brainstorming is also about team building and what Foucault might call communication. The goblins were angry. And as with any group of people, the anger circled and spiraled within the community. The anger explored each person while it evolved. The anger developed into a force that would survive any logic or common sense that tried to attack it. The anger came to Jish, the big physical one. Dawig is a human. He is a bull brain. The other goblins nodded. Yes, Jish. Dawig is a bull brain. Zigmemsen nodded, and he's not even a good human. He couldn't get the stuff when he's supposed to be so much as a good human. And Eeks too. Eeks isn't a human, and he's a messed up goblin, Foucault added. For being a goblin, Eeks is messed up. He says all those human words, but those humans just see a goblin. Yes. You are smart today, Fook. Outlug supported the girl who usually supported her. Eeks has been teaching us to speak the human all this travel, but for what good? The humans will just think we are tricksy goblins. Which we are. Zigmemsen added quickly. We are tricksy goblins. We will always be the tricksy goblins.
Do not criticize. Please. Life can be tough, and we want to get to the point. But, can we, just for this moment, not beat each other up? We hope to write a scene or two where Foucault is working out this one rule for brainstorming. Do not criticize the ideas that other people offer. And for now, let's just try some brainstorming of our own. The brainstorming scene will come later. It will happen as the goblins along with the bard named Wiggleheart, are traveling through the west. Wiggleheart is a bard and a news reporter. The goblins work as entertainers. The goblins' first wish is to work as adventurers, but between paying jobs, they also work as investigative reporters. It is at this time that the goblins decide to take on the challenge of rescuing Lineally. Lineally looks like a giant mouse and talks like a philosopher. It will be Foucault who is most invested in the character, Lineally. But, most of that will be later. First, the adventurers will need to rescue the strange mouse halfling.
In this video we want to play with the question, how do we build good scenes? And, because we are building our fantasy world out of stories, we want to choose bits of our world to focus on. We have far too many options for scenes to pick from. So, we need a pivotal scene. How about an opening scene? Well, lately we have been talking about our new character, Wiggleheart, the Bard. Should we build the scene when the Bard first meets the Goblins? Wiggleheart is a young adult female gnome, and a bard. She has worked as a bard for some time and is good at it. Before venturing west, she grew up in the mostly gnome nation of Toonbag. Now she wants to prove that she can be independent and a force for truth and justice, sort of thing. Also, she has a cart that is pulled by a goat. As she is traveling, she will meet with 4 goblins. She will not be used to goblins and will make some wrong assumptions. Our goblins are also new to the area. What do you think might happen when they meet? Deadfulfishy was the captain. He made the rules. Except that, as a child goblin, Fukok had never worried much about the rules before. But, now, Fukok found herself inside of this crowded tight little space, and she had to follow the rules. Fukok had gone on an adventure with her friends and now, somehow, she had gotten a job. Trugyuk with the big hat had said that they could come along and it would be a great and wondrous adventure that Fukok would tell her grandchildren about. That of course was silly. Fukok was almost too young to have children now, and she was almost certain that she didn't have any grandchildren. But, what the loud and smiling goblin man, Trugyuk had talked about sounded like fun, so Fukok and her friends had decided to go along. And it had been fun. Sometimes. But at other times it was just a lot of work. But Trugyuk had talked about the work too. He said that the goblins were going to be part of his Kalmunit tree, which he called the troop. And it seemed that the troop were the people who went along with Deadfulfishy on the pirate sheep boat. So then, here and now, Fukok was inside of this little round box, doing the right things in just the right order. Meanwhile she could feel herself floating back and forth, repeatedly. And Fukok had to do the right thing at just the right moment. She could hear Deadfulfishy say his words outside, and so, when Deadfulfishy said the thing, then Fukok would pull the right string and the machine would go thunk. Then outside, where Deadfulfishy was doing the show, Fukok would hear the oohs and ahs of admiration. It meant that Fukok had pulled the right string at just the right time and everything was good. Fukok felt her chest swelling with pride, but then she remembered to focus on Deadfulfishy's talk, so that she would be ready for the next string pull. Anyway, it wouldn't be very good to swell with pride inside this little target pendulum. There wasn't enough room.
Are you okay, Gish?
The young goblin female named Fukok asked the young goblin man standing on the shore. Gish thought for a moment. He looked down at himself and then moved his arms and legs, checking. Yes, Fukok. I think that I am not hurt. Then he thought for another moment. But I am tired. I had to swim. Fukok nodded.
Yes, Gish. We all had to swim. The sheep boat crashed. Now we are all on the land.
Fukok looked up along the beach and said,
I think I saw Zig and Outlug over there. We should go see if they are okay.
Gish nodded, ready to follow. Fukok hesitated. She wasn't used to leading, but this time she would. They walked up the beach to Outlug. The young goblin woman, Outlug, looked up at Fukok and Gish as they came to where she was sitting on the sand.
The sheep boat got crashed on the rocks. I think that dead bullfishy must have been drunk.
Outlug said, sounding angry.
Yes,
said Fukok.
I think that the sheep boat got really smashed up.
They looked out into the dark as the sound of waves crashed onto the shore.
Oh, okay. That's some ideas about brainstorming. Or was it some brainstorming about ideas? Yes. We are clever, aren't we? So now. Today we have learned that brainstorming has rules. We need rules so that we feel safe to play and to invent and to brainstorm. Our rules are things like, don't criticize. Well, that's pretty easy to understand, right? For a lot of times, not criticizing is just common courtesy and common sense. So then. Another rule is that no one gets to claim ownership of an idea. That's a good one to remember and brings us to an interesting thought. This rule means that the really smart people won't bring their best ideas to the brainstorming session, will they? Not when they won't get to say to people, that was my idea. Brainstorming is about quantity, not quality. So, clever people will hold back their best ideas for after the brainstorming session, when people are looking for the best ideas. Okay. Let's move on to our next rule. Can you think of any? Give me a moment. No, yes. Our third rule will be, someone needs to write down each idea. And, well, we think that is more than just so we don't forget some of the ideas. No. It helps to keep people from repeating the same idea over and over, just in case we forget their favorite. People are like that, though, aren't they? Anyway. We have been talking about brainstorming since we started Wild Art Fly Free. It's sort of what we are all about. So then. Let's brainstorm now. About brainstorming. Please share your comments in the ideas section below. And, don't worry too much about the rules. No, really. What do you think about making that the fourth rule? Don't worry too much about the rules. And thank you.